Today, I'm going to show you how top lead generators, lead sellers, and lead gen agencies think differently about compliance. I'll explain how they think about it in a way that increases the value of their leads, reduces refunds, and protects them and their clients and buyers from massive fines, especially when it comes to TCPA. By the end of this video, you're going to walk away with 5 simple tweaks that you can make to your lead funnels, lead forms, lead quizzes today, to your compliance text to immediately increase the value of your leads, improve contact rates, ultimately help grow your lead gen business while keeping everybody protected and compliant. My name is John, and I'm the founder of LeadCapture.io. LeadCapture is a plug-and-play funnel builder for lead gen. It makes it really easy to build high-converting lead funnels and to remove all of the usual friction from the lead gen process, especially when it comes to capturing opt-in consent. Now, everything that I'm sharing with you is based on what we're seeing working for the top 10% of lead generators using LeadCapture. So I highly recommend watching this video because I'm going to help you shift your perspective around how you think about compliance if you're not already thinking about it this way. So let's start there. Let's start with the big perspective shift. Now, over at LeadCapture, I noticed that most lead generators treat compliance kind of like a chore. They know they have to deal with compliance. They know they have to capture consent, whether that's TCPA, GDPR, CCPA, or one of the others, but it's not something they really want to do. So they either avoid it because it's complex, or they avoid it because of fear of fines, fear of legal issues, and the list just goes on and on. But here's the truth. When compliance is done right, it actually increases the value of your leads and the value of your services. It makes buyers trust you more, and it could be a massive value prop for your lead gen business, especially in highly regulated industries like mortgage, insurance, financial services, debt, tax, home services, legal, and the list goes on. And here's the thing, if you're working in one of those industries, I can almost guarantee you that your clients don't want more leads. They want high quality leads. They want compliant leads, and they'll pay more for those leads. They'll pay more for your services, and they'll be more likely to stick around with you for the long term if you're giving them peace of mind. But most people don't think about compliance like this. They think about it as this big, scary thing that could potentially kill conversions with a bunch of legal jargon on a contact form or a contact step. But the top 10% over at LeadCapture, they think about this opposite way. They're playing a different game. They know that their buyers want compliant leads, and they know that consent signals intent. I'll say that again, that's a really key thing. Consent signals intent. And they know that if they capture compliant leads, it can reduce lead refunds and ultimately make their lead gen business more profitable. But not only that, they also know, and this is really key, that clear disclosure text can actually improve contact rates downstream. They're making compliance a key part of their value prop, and that's the mindset shift. Compliance shouldn't just be another checkbox. So that leads me to 5 key things that you can do to make compliance a key part of your value prop as a lead generator. Thing number 1, do not skimp on your compliance text. Do not take shortcuts. I'll explain a few key things that we see the top lead generators using in their lead forms and in their funnels. And for this example, let's just focus on TCPA because that's one of the most common that we see in the lead gen space. First, make sure that your compliance text is positioned in the right part of your lead form or lead funnel. You want it to sit near your phone field, ideally below the CTA or sometimes even above it. And make sure that you are stating the exact CTA text right in your compliance text. For example, if your button text says submit, you could say something like, by clicking submit, I consent, and then have the rest of your consent text. Or if your CTA says get my rate, you could say by clicking get my rate, then the rest of your consent text. Also keep in mind that you need to link to your full consent disclosure and privacy policy. If you're generating leads for somebody else, whether that's a buyer or a client, make sure you're linking to their disclosure text and their privacy policy. For some reason, a lot of people forget to drop those links in, so please do not forget that. And here's another thing, and this is really key. Mention whoever is going to be following up with the lead. I don't think this is legally required. And this is also a good time for a disclaimer here. I'm obviously not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice. I always recommend consulting with an attorney about the proper way to set up your compliance text and your TCPA text. But based on what I understand about compliance and what I see working extremely well is including the name of the company or person who's following up with a lead. And there's a really key reason for this. I'll get to that a little bit later in this video. Now, I could keep going and going. There are a ton of different rules when it comes to compliance text, especially TCPA, but we have a ton of documentation and checklists over on the LeadCapture.io blog. You can go check it out here. And look, I know all this compliance stuff seems complicated. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, Not as exciting as talking about conversion tactics and other things you can do to maximize lead quality and improve your lead gen business. But this is really key because compliance is a key part of lead quality. It's not its own thing sitting over here separate from lead quality and conversion. It's a key pillar of lead quality. And if you get compliance right, as I've been saying and as I continue to say, it will ultimately help you grow your business. And over at LeadCapture, we've already done a lot of the heavy lifting for you by adding the templates into our system. That leads me to number 2. Over at LeadCapture, I noticed that the people who are absolutely crushing it when it comes to lead gen are treating their consent checkboxes as intent filters. And I just want to restate what I just said there because I do not want that to be missed. Consent, especially consent checkboxes, can be viewed as intent filters. So let me explain what I mean. First, when it comes to adding consent, whether it's TCPA, GDPR, or something else, there's always a ton of questions around checkboxes. Should I add a checkbox or should I not add a checkbox? Will adding a checkbox hurt conversions? Where do I actually put the checkbox? Well, the answer to that really depends on the type of regulation that you're dealing with, whether it's TCPA or something else. But here's the thing, the top lead generators over at LeadCapture, they're not getting stuck on all these little nuanced questions because ultimately getting stuck on those questions slows them down. And it prevents them from launching faster and iterating even faster to get better results faster. Instead, they view checkboxes as a signal of intent. The whole idea is this, that the lead is willing to click the little box before they hit submit, then they're going to be more likely to pick up the phone. Ultimately, that little checkbox, that thing that everybody gets so stressed out about, could be the very thing that helps improve contact rates. And I truly believe that there's something to that. Because a common pattern that I see is that sometimes it actually makes sense to slow the lead down, get them to think into what they're actually opting into. And checking that box or even just reading compliance text can be a really good way to get leads that have more intent, and intent is typically correlated with higher contact rates. So instead of worrying about a measly 1 to 3% drop in conversion rates by adding a checkbox or adding compliance jargon, the top lead generators are focused more on a 10 to 20% lift in contact rates. They're focused on driving high intent leads and everything more so downstream from the lead funnel, because that's where the lead buyer actually makes their money. And that is what will ultimately improve your lead gen business because it means that they will stick around for longer. Moving on to our third tactic, add the name of the company or person who is following up with the lead right in the consent text. To back up for a second, back in late 2024, early 2025, when the TCPA one-to-one consent fiasco was rippling through the lead gen industry, and thank God it got shot down, it forced everybody to really take a hard look at their TCPA consent language, for better or for worse. And even though that ruling got shot down, something interesting happened. I noticed that a segment of lead generators out there kept the part of the TCPA ruling that said that you had to explicitly state whoever is following up with the lead. For example, if you're selling a lead to a roofing company named Bob's Roofing, then you need to include the name Bob's Roofing in the compliance text. Or if you are selling a final expense lead, then you need to include the agent's name in the compliance text. That was what the new ruling was requiring. Then that all went away, but some people stuck with that. And the idea is that it will make them more likely to pick up the phone. Now, do you see a theme here? I keep talking about picking up the phone. I keep talking about contact rates. And the reason for this is because having clearly documented consent with the name of the company or person who's following up leads to a more transparent lead gen process. And transparency builds trust. When you have trust between the lead and the person who's going to be calling the lead, you are more likely to get a response. And when it comes to capturing opt-in consent, it kind of takes us full circle back to this notion that, again, consent and compliance isn't just another checkbox. It is literally one of your best tools that you have for increasing contact rates. Because if you handle your consent properly, again, you're building trust by being transparent, and that trust and transparency is leading to higher contact rates. Now, going back to this idea of adding the name of the company or person who's following up in your compliance text. For some people, it's really easy. You simply just manually drop that in. You can do that right inside of LeadCapture in your compliance area. But for some, it's harder, especially if you're a lead seller that's routing your leads in real time to different buyers who are being selected on a back-end lead distribution tool. That's where you need something like dynamic consent. And currently, LeadCapture is one of the only platforms that I know of, at least, that offers a true native seamless dynamic consent feature. And it will be here whether you need it now or in the future if the TCPA one-to-one consent ruling ever happens to come back, whether it's next year or a decade from now, and hopefully that doesn't happen, but it will be here if you ever need it for that reason. Now let's move on to the fourth tactic, and this is one of my favorites because this makes it extremely easy to become compliant while improving the overall quality of your lead and keeping everybody protected in the process. Tip number 4, capture active prospect trusted form certificates with your leads. And this should almost be required. That's why we've gone to great lengths over at LeadCapture to make it easy to integrate with trusted form. So in addition to nailing the consent text, I also noticed a pattern where some of the top lead generators over at LeadCapture are also sending their buyers or clients active prospect trusted form certificates with each lead. Now, what is trusted form? Well, trusted form is a digital certificate that captures proof of consent in a frictionless manner behind the scenes. Without getting too technical, here's how it works from an extremely high level. Upon submission of your lead form, a digital certificate is dynamically generated, and it includes a session replay. So as the prospect is going through your lead funnel or your lead form, it's automatically capturing that information via a session recording, and it's also including a timestamp, IP address, and additional metadata that all gets stored in this digital certificate. That certificate can be passed with your lead information to your buyers and clients. I personally think this is probably the closest thing to a digital body cam for consent collection. And the best part is that the prospect never sees it happening behind the scenes. It's completely frictionless. And like I said, I believe that trusted form should be required for almost everybody in lead gen. And that's why we've made it extremely easy to set up inside of LeadCapture. All you have to do is go to lead delivery inside of your lead funnel and flip the trusted form switch, and it's fully integrated with their SDK. Now from there, you can go onto the active prospect website and actually create an account for trusted form to claim and retain your certificates. They offer a bunch of additional features. I highly recommend checking it out if you are serious about leveling up the quality of your leads and ensuring that both you and your lead buyers and clients are all protected. And now let's move on with the last tip. Tip number 5, make sure you're passing your compliance text to your lead buyers and also tag your leads as providing opt-in consent. This is one of those little known things that I think most people miss when it comes to consent, especially TCPA. It's about more than just having your consent text. You also need to capture and store that exact text that the prospect saw. And I noticed that many people forget about that step. They'll have the consent text there, it might even be perfect, but they aren't actually capturing it and they aren't actually storing it. And then if you're not storing it, then did you truly even have it there? Well, the reality is that having the consent inside of your form isn't enough these days. Like I said, you also need to store the exact consent text, pass the consent text to your buyer or client. At LeadCapture, we not only make it easy to add in consent and get set up with trusted form, but when you're using our consent features, every lead gets tagged and we automatically store the consent with each lead, and then you can distribute that consent with your lead records into your CRM or lead distribution tools, so both you, your buyer, and your clients always have access to it. So as you can see, the top lead generators aren't just thinking of consent as extra work, and they're definitely not treating consent and compliance as just another checkbox. Instead, they understand that consent and compliance are a key part of their service and the quality of the leads that they're delivering. That's why they're focused on capturing clear consent, documenting the consent, and then passing that consent to whoever is following up with the lead. So I'll end with this. If you're struggling with lead refunds or rejections, or if your lead buyers and clients don't trust your leads, or even if you're finding that your contact rates are a bit low, maybe start by taking a closer look at your consent collection process. And if you're thinking of consent and compliance and TCPA, GDPR, and all those things as a checkbox, keep in mind that it could very well be a core part of your value prop, or even your competitive edge as you use it to help build trust and transparency with both your leads and your clients. If you got any value from this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more insights and breakdowns. And finally, if you need help setting up all this consent stuff, I highly recommend checking out leadcapture.io because we make adding consent into your workflow extremely easy and painless. You can go over to LeadCapture and start a 7-day free trial. I'll see you next time.